Jeff Koinange Live in association with Kenya Power. Get power information right at your fingertips. Dial star 551 hash Kenya Power.
So let me start by first wishing all our KTN viewers a Happy New Year. In this show, we not only want to motivate you and give us a feeling of what 2014 is going to be like, we want to look back at the year that was, 2013, and the events that shaped that year, not just here in Kenya or Africa, but around the world. Here to do it is a man who, during the day, does a lot of devolution work around the country. But when he's not doing that, he's a motivational speaker. And what he does is spit out proverbs and sayings that will leave you dumbfounded, if you will. All I can say is grab a pen and paper, because what this man says will not only leave you in stitches, it'll make you think. Sit back, folks. McLean Hatete. My brother, good to see you.
Good to see you.
Karibu sana, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you too.
What a year it's going to be. Let's hope. Let's hope. Okay, let's start by talking about what happened in 2013, because it was a monumental year, if you will, not just in Kenya, elections in the early part of the year, but what shaped the year, the rest of the year, if you will. But first of all, the biggest story, not only of the year or of this century, or probably even of the last century, the death of one of the last of the world's living saints, Nelson Mandela. Tell us your thoughts.
To me, I will start by saying that we have to thank the Almighty God for giving us the one and only Madiba, Nelson Mandela. And also, I have to thank God for not making Mandela a Kenyan.
Because?
Definitely, he would have murdered himself. We live in a society whereby mad is the order of the day. But as we always say, at the house of a man who can make a choice is where the darkest clouds gather. Nelson Mandela made choices, and indeed tough choices, and that is what made him to be what he was. And that is why we say that Nelson Mandela can only be compared to himself.
His place in history, McLean, do you think we'll ever see another Mandela in our lifetime?
Never ever. Never ever. Most people would go the limit of the Constitution. Nelson Mandela was detained. After detention, he embraced the guys who put him in. He only went one term. Put it in another context. Nelson Mandela, not once, not twice, left the tools of power to Mangosuthu Buthelezi, until we even can't remember where Mangosuthu Buthelezi went. Who else will do that? Not even in Africa, not even in Europe, not even in America. Only Nelson Mandela can do that. Yeah.
When the world looks at this great icon, I mean, even in the 20th century, I can't even think of anyone who comes close to him.
No one.
What do you think it was about Nelson Mandela that was different? What do you think, what was it? His motivation, his commitment, his country first and everything else second? What was it?
To me, I can say that God speaks to people through people. And I believe that Mzee Nelson Mandela was God's voice in a human being's stature. Because all that he did, in as much as the pain that he went through, Mzee Nelson Mandela always gathered the courage to overcome. In spite of all the difficulties that Mzee Nelson Mandela went through, I remember he was made to add this word during the last words he was saying before he was convicted. He was told to add, if need be. He wanted to say that if what he believed in is worth taking his life, so be it. But he was forced to add the word if need be, so that he does not appear to be challenging the judges.
And that's why he said, if needs be, I am prepared to die.
Exactly.
Ah. Do you think our Kenyan leaders can learn something from the late, great Nelson Mandela?
A few people drink from the fountain of knowledge, but many of us just gurgle. In our society, we have everything to learn about Nelson Mandela, but the choice is ours. If we want to embrace that route or if we want to continue the way we've been doing things. Because they normally say a true statesman will not be judged by the size or the amount of power that he or she is wielding, but how wise she or he uses or utilizes.
Wise sayings there, McLean, wise sayings. All right, let's come over to Kenya and look at 2013, beginning of the year. Jubilee came into office. There was a lot of euphoria. And then the euphoria didn't last very long. What happened? What went wrong?
Where I come from, they say that when prosperity comes, you should not use the whole of it. Jubilee got a resounding victory, which was confirmed by the Electoral Commission and the Supreme Court. But to me, I believe that there is this Swahili saying which says that ngoma za watoto huwa hazikeshi. The president and the deputy president got the goodwill of the whole country. But what I believe is that too much of speed kills. It's important that they stick to the script as they were promising the people, and also in as much as they have the so-called tyrant of numbers in the legislature, they don't misuse it. They don't misuse it, because if they can borrow a leaf from George Bush Jr., when he got into power, there was a controversy between Albert Gore and George Bush. But when he got into office, he's tried to sanitize and move towards what the electorate in America would call a level or a good president. When it came the second election, he hit John Kerry in the teeth because people gave him a lot of confidence. But at this speed, I believe that the Jubilee government, if it does not check itself, it will shoot itself in the foot, because look at the media bill, look at the the bill that is intended to regulate the NGOs. To me, I don't believe it is going to do them any favor, because we moved on. They were campaigning on a platform of being digital, but to me, they are not even analog. They have gone manual, because what they are doing is the things that we thought we had left long time ago.
For you mentioned the media bill, McLean, and it looks like we're going back to the dark ages. You know, it looks like they'll have the power to gag us when and if they wish.
Whoever said that if the guilty people are always afraid would not have said it any better, because a digital system of governance, I believed or thought that is a system whereby everything is done above board. The late Michael Kijana Wamalwa will say that all the cards should be on the table. But the way these guys are behaving is as if they have some special cards which are under the table. And I believe that whoever said the seeds always falls next to the tree. When we look at our president, he's a graduate from a specific institution of politics in the country, and he also the deputy. But what I fear is that Kenyans cannot allow themselves to go back to where we came from.
Yeah. After all, the president is his father's son.
Definitely.
That's where you're going with this one.
Yeah.
Also, the judiciary came under a lot of attack, and late in the year, the JSC president literally at a meeting, he suspended 6 members of the JSC, remember? And then he called for a tribunal, and then that was slammed down by the High Supreme Court. I mean, goodness, don't these people read the Constitution?
Okay, the Constitution Article 250 allows the president to form a commission or a tribunal to look into any commission that has got integrity issues. But when you look at it from common sense part of it, for example, in our country we have just had Sekafa tournament, and during this Sekafa tournament we have a set of officials who are presiding over these matches. But you don't expect a referee from Tanzania to officiate a match between Taifa Stars and Harambee Stars, in as much as he's qualified.
There's a conflict.
There's a conflict of interest. Even if you were to whistle for a handball or a foul, definitely people will believe or will be tempted to think that you are doing that because you are favoring your team. So I think the president, in as much as was right into forming a tribunal, but the composition of the tribunal was betraying the whole purpose of what he intended to do.
Yeah. One of the arms of government, McLean, the legislature, seemed to have gone rogue in 2013, led by the speaker himself. It seems like they went rogue.
When we were growing up, I thought that Francis Ole Kaparo was the best speaker, or rather was born to be speaker. But when Marende came in, I realized that, so we had even another better person who can be speaker more than Francis Ole Kaparo. But when I look at my brother Justin Muturi, to me, I see a lot of activism speaker. Activism speaker in the legislature. He's not acting like a father figure of the National Assembly. To me, he's more of a youth winger. He's not doing the business of bringing honor and integrity to that particular arm of government.
And it looks like there's definitely going to be a clash at some point between the legislature, judiciary, between the executive and the judiciary. I mean, there's going to be some kind of clash.
You rush like lightning and you crash like thunder. So I believe that some sense should be pumped into the brains of the speaker, Justin Muturi, and he should not forget that people are judged by how they utilize power that they have, not the size of the power that they do. So at this speed, they are not doing the president or Jubilee government any favor. They are just burning their fingers.
Absolutely. Let's switch gears, McLean, and talk about the elephant in the room, the ICC. I mean, this thing just refuses to go away. And in February, if all is as is, if we are to believe what's happening right now, the president has to show up himself at The Hague at the opening of his own trial.
Article 143 of the Constitution, sub-article 4, says that, of course, sub-article 1 of 143 says that the president cannot stand trial while still in office. But 4 says that the above provisions does not apply to the conventions or treaties that Kenya is a signatory to. We are signatories to the Rome Statute. Now, it's like when you are running away from your own shadow. We cannot run away from our own shadow. It is the same parliament, the former parliament, which allowed our country issues to be resolved at The Hague.
They said, don't be vague.
We want Hague. So Hague has come. And to me, what I would say is that we don't have a lot of options. Let the president face the trial, let him be exonerated, and we move on. Because in one of the respected dialects in this country, we say that odo tiomwe. We cannot stay here in, here out talking about or thinking about The Hague. We need to move on as a country. So let this thing be brought to closure, and whatever happens, happens, because Kenya is bigger than any one of us.
Absolutely. What if he doesn't? What if he refuses to go, McLean? What if he says he's not going, an arrest warrant is issued, and we become a pariah state?
It's unfortunate, and we cannot anticipate refusal, because Kenya cannot sustain itself as an island. We belong to a community of nations, and the consequences of not complying will be harsh and dear to our people to bear, because it comes with economic sanctions, it comes with a whole host of issues. Unlike Sudan, you find that the pipelines of southern Sudan goes through Port Sudan. So by virtue of transferring the barrels of oil to the other world, they get some income. If Kenya is subjected to that, we will not make it. We will not make it.
What do you think of the Deputy President insisting on him and his trial going on? He has no problem continuing his trial. So one arm of the executive is saying, let's go the whole hog. The other arm is, well, not literally, but people are pushing him not to go.
Bottom line, on the charge sheet, we have 3 names. Joshua Rapsang, Deputy President William Ruto, and President Uhuru Kenyatta. The other guys are just cheerleaders, and people who are interested in their own things. So I'll go with the side of the Deputy President, because we must bring this thing to closure. Even the best of sermons cannot last the whole year. We must move on to the other pages. So we don't have a lot of choices. We don't have options. Let the trial proceed. Let our president face it. And he says he's innocent. A lot of people believe that he's innocent. But we cannot reach there until we are at the bridge.
Yeah. Yes. Do you see a bit of friction developing inside the executive? Because one side is pushing their guy to stay in The Hague, the other side pushing him not to go. Will we see some friction in 2014? Definitely.
Definitely. Friction is coming, and it calls for a lot of prayers as a nation. We should talk to God. We should kindly ask God to guide our leaders and us as a country, because as I told you the other time, the biggest challenge that Jesus Christ faced while he was on earth was how to deal with hypocrites. And a lot of our guys are hypocrites. Even those who are telling the president don't go, ignore it, are hypocrites, because we belong to a community of nations, and we belong to a system where order is the modus operandi. So we don't have too much option.
Yeah. So 2014 will be a very interesting year politically.
It is interesting, because if you remember the Supreme Court ruling, which said that the provisions of Article 81 and Article 27, which calls for not more than 2/3 of elective positions must not belong to one gender. The Supreme Court ruled that by August 2015. So the mechanisms to ensure that that particular provision comes into life must be put in place before that time comes. But looking at the guys who are charged with that responsibility, we need interventions of angels so that they come back on the track.
Could these two, I'm talking about the president and the deputy, could they part company at some point?
In politics, we don't have permanent friends and permanent enemies. If you remember the scenario in 2007, changed hardly 5 years. By 2012, guys who could not see eye to eye were now singing the same tune. So in politics, you cannot rule anything out. Just like in marriage. People tie the knot, and at some point, they have to part.
Yeah. Till death do us part. That doesn't apply.
It doesn't. It doesn't.
Okay, we're going to take a break right now. When we come back, one more sayings. What was that, what you said? Lightning, crush lightning, what?
If you rush like lightning, you crash like thunder.
You crush like lightning, you crash like thunder.
You rush like lightning, you crash like thunder.
Oh, yeah. And what was that, the watoto one?
Watoto?
Waswahili usema, watoto?
Ngoma za watoto hazikeshi.
Yo. I tell you, folks, it's going to be interesting out there. And McLean Khatete is breaking it down. We're looking back at 2013 and looking forward to the year ahead. Only on Jeff Koinange Holiday Special, coming to you from the Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club. This is where it's at. Grab a pen and paper. McLean is literally just... We're back in a moment. And welcome back to Jeff Koinange Holiday Special, Kenya at 50. We're kicking it off with a lot of motivation. Grab a paper and pen, because when McLean Khatete shows up on the bench, you know he's going to leave you not only in stitches, but yes, thinking, We're talking about the year 2013 and looking ahead to the next 364 days. So McLean, the judiciary, I mean, this was the arm of government that everyone was praising at some point. I mean, at one point they were like the model. And then towards the end of the year, it looked like it came crashing down. The whole Cholet controversy, Ahmed Nasir, JSE, everybody clashing back and forth. Even the CJ came under attack at some point. Is it coming undone?
To me, I feel that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And I believe that maybe the drafters of the Constitution should have done better in as far as checking some of these institutions is concerned. Because when power is left to people to regulate and reign themselves, sometimes it comes in tricky. So I believe that the Judicial Service Commission and the judiciary were left alone to do their things. And you know, as human beings, you'll always want to step in some waters even if they are not calm.
But do you see themselves coming together again? Because, look, with the Supreme Court overruling the executive, that was a sign. I mean, at least they're following the Constitution, the letter of the Constitution.
But the damage has already been done because integrity issues have come at fore. Because what are some of the conditions, or rather some of the reasons that can see a judicial officer or a head of a department sent packing is integrity issues. For example, if you violate the Constitution or if you behave in a way that is not consistent with the same Constitution. So in as much as the Supreme Court ruled, or rather the court ruled the way it did, the damage has already been done in as far as the integrity of these commissioners is concerned.
Yeah. So McLean, when Kenyans elected Jubilee into office in March 9th, 2013, were Kenyans expecting too much? Were the expectations too high?
Definitely, the expectations was very, very high. And also, you know, they campaign on a platform of freshness and a platform of a new beginning. You know, just like in a football match, when a sub is done, you expect the person who is coming in to bring more life into the game. But as we've been moving on, the way they are progressing is not far away from the way a retired president used to do it, or the other president. Is just like normal business of being in the top seats. Yeah. There is nothing unique that you can mention, or rather you can tie to the current regime. Yes.
But look, you got to give them credit. In the beginning, you know, when they used to appear for those press conferences, you know, no jackets, the sleeves rolled up. I mean, they looked pretty digital. They looked very convincing.
You know, there is a difference between achievement and activity. To me, that one was more of an activity than an achievement. Because, you know, the swag, you know, the rolling up. Yeah. In the end, it's just like in a movie. The excitement and the enthusiasm just ends within the 90 minutes or the 2 hours. But the reality sinks in when you start walking home. Mm-hmm. So, to me, I feel that there should be more to it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of expectations from those Kenyans you're talking about, the ones who are walking to work every morning, walking back home. They earn 200-300 shillings a day, and they still have to put food on the table.
Exactly. Look at, for example, insecurity in our country is a very big issue, and the way it is being handled, from my perspective, it is too casual. It is too casual, and having campaign on a platform of being digital, you know, digital is just a button away, just a touch and things are in place. But the people who are experiencing violence or unrest in their area, the way it happened during former regime and the other regime is just continuation of the same thing. Yeah. So to them, new regime or no regime, the bullets are still flying left, right, and center.
Yeah. Another big story, you speak of insecurity, another big story of 2013 happened on September the 21st, Westgate. I mean, that one was a uppercut if you'd ever seen one. You know, none of us ordinary Kenyans saw it coming.
You know, it's unfortunate. Something like that happens, people lose their lives, and people are just handling it casual. You hear some people who are in leadership say that we knew about these things, we told so and so, the blame game continues. You hear the same regime or government trying to say that I have confidence in the security organs. And when you look at the attackers that we were told attacked our country, 4 or 5 or even 10, we have thousands of security officers. If we can be held at ransom for 4, 5 or even 2 days by a gang of 10 or so people, something is terribly wrong.
Yeah. Do you think we learned any lessons from it, McLean?
No lesson. We've not learned anything because these things happen day in, day out. How many incursions do we have alongside our borders? How many robbery attempts, or rather robberies, that are happening in our country? We've been having these things day in, day out, and to me, I don't think if there are any lessons that we've learned.
Yeah.
It's just issues of covering my back or covering my brother's back.
Absolutely. And someone once said, let me give you a saying, someone once said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again.
And expect a
different result. Exactly. Can they redeem themselves? Can Jubilee redeem itself?
You know, they have the time, the muscle, the opportunity, and the numbers to do things right. But it is very difficult for a hen to hatch into a crocodile. So, to me, I expect things to continue the way they have been doing, and I don't expect a lot of change. Because the cheerleaders are there, the Kinaduales of this world, to them everything is just all right, everything is just okay. So it's unfortunate, but at least since independence, apart from a retired president, these two guys are well educated. We thought maybe education has something to do with good leadership, but from the way they are performing, to me, on a scale of 1 to 10, 3.5.
Oh my goodness. And it's not even a year yet.
Yeah.
And look, McLean, we've discovered oil. We've discovered plenty of water. We've discovered a lot of coal. We've discovered gas, natural gas off the coast. And probably other discoveries that are yet to be found. What's keeping us from taking off? We've been on this runway for too long.
It is not in the interest of government to make sure that its people are well fed or satisfied, because they thrive on misfortunes of other people. When there's hunger, they are proud to stand before cameras and declare there's hunger, there is national disaster, and you know that one results into procuring foodstuffs and the rest without following the procedure, the laid down procedures. So to me, it is not in their interest to see to it that we are better off today than we were yesterday. And it's unfortunate.
Yeah. Look, 2017 is not that far away. If they continue this present trend, this present format, will they come back?
It is hard to predict because they have what we call my people or our people behind us. And if my guy is up there and is satisfied, he's constipating, the whole village is constipating. The whole village is full. So unless we start thinking selfishly as voters of this country, unless we start now, Malcolm X once said, he cannot afford to sit on a diner's table with nothing on his plate and consider himself a diner. In as much as you come from my village, you are at the top. What is on my plate? Unless we start thinking from that line, we'll still continue voting the same way we've been doing it.
Yeah. And those Kenyans who walk to work and walk back will continue walking?
Definitely, they will continue doing that.
And the prices of basic foods will not come down as we were promised once?
If, for example, God forbid, anything happens that we'll see as being subjected to sanctions or isolations, things will be more tighter. And it is such things that brings in uprisings. And we don't want to go there. We don't want to go there because we can do it better.
And what about looking east? Does that help us? Does that hurt us?
East, everyone has got his good things and bad things. The only thing I dislike about the East is that the human rights records of the Easterners is not that good. Because in as far as you are doing business with them, even if you engage in the business of slaughtering your people, they don't give a damn. As long as give way, I'm doing this road, you can continue killing yourself in the bush next. They don't care. So I believe we need everybody. We need everybody because not everything comes from the East. Not everything.
And not everything comes from the West.
Yes.
But do you think the West needs us more than we need them?
We need each other as a community of the world. But truth be told, we are a third world country. We are underdeveloped. we are still miles behind in as far as development is concerned. So we will be lying to ourselves saying that we both need each other. We do, but we need them more than they need us.
Yeah. Maybe we could learn a lesson from that old man who died in December, Nelson Mandela.
But unfortunately, unless we have God's intervention, we'll only praise and say good things about Nelson Mandela, forgetting that when our time comes, will we have anything that people will remember us for? We've had leaders in this country. What can you quote from them? How can you remember them? A lot of nothing. So we believe that we have what it takes to be good people, but the choice is ours. It all depends on us. What you become tomorrow depends on the choices that you make.
Absolutely. I want to talk more about that after the break, McLean, and also the fact that why not just ignore let the people in leadership run the leadership. Let the rest of us do our little bit. How about that? You know, forget about them. Like in Switzerland, for instance, nobody knows who the president is. They change the president every 3 days or something, right? Nobody knows who it is. Life goes on because they don't care who's in power. How about going about that? Think about it as we go to a break. In fact, before we go to a break, let's have another saying, man. My pen and paper is still out. Go on.
They normally say that the first love is a little bit of foolishness and a lot of curiosity and infatuation.
McLean Khatete breaking it down. We're talking about the year 2013 and what will be, hopefully, well, looking through the crystal ball of 2014. So much to look forward to, folks, but yes, so many challenges. That's why we're tackling it this first day of the year. Jeff Kanenge holiday special coming to you from the Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club. That's where it's at. So sit back, and we'll be back in a moment. And welcome back to Jeff Kanenge Holiday Special, Kenya at 50 and counting. We are at the Windsor Golf Hotel and Country Club, and we're looking back at 2013 and forward into this new year. With us, McLean Khatete, been breaking it down all along. Hope you've got that pen and paper, because what he says is no doubt profound. So McLean, nothing's going to happen in 2014 until we shake this monkey off our back. I mean, now everybody's looking towards February the 5th, right? So everything is at a standstill. Everything has stood still almost. Time has stood still.
But let us, as a country, take what our three brothers are going through as a judicial process. Because since civilization caught up with us, at one point in time, people have been going through courts, being processed, sentenced, acquitted, or mistrial. So I think if our approach towards the events that are supposed to start from February 5th is anything to go by, let us just take it as a normal judicial process. The only difference is that our country's CEO, our country's head of state, is the person who is supposed to respond to those charges. And pray that all is well. Pray that all is well.
Yeah.
And we move on as a country.
And if it doesn't happen, will we stay stagnant?
Life must go on.
That's Tupac Shakur who said that, by the way.
Irrespective of how you are living, but life must go on. Whether we will be on the windward side or on the leeward side. But what I can advise our countrymen is that a fly that doesn't listen to advice follows the corpse to the grave.
Gotta write that down. A fly that doesn't listen to advice
follows the corpse to the grave.
To the grave. What can we look forward to in 2014, McLean? I mean, what are the hopeful things we should look forward to?
Are they the tablets or the laptops for the for the kids.
Is that feasible? Is that will that really happen?
They promised us, so we will hold them by that. They said that the lowest bidder had done at 30 billion, and they had planned for 13 billion or 12 point something billion. We hope it will come to pass, and also we hope that they'll streamline. You know, this noise about some people, the medics wanting to remain with the national government, they don't want to go to county government.
Yeah.
Something should be sanitized so that we move on.
Yeah.
We move on as a country.
Yeah.
Yes, these shenanigans and sideshows about strikes and industrial unrest, to me, is uncalled for.
Yeah. And down at the county level, you think devolution will ever work, McLean? Because in a lot of ways, it is a recipe for fleecing.
It is. For example, if I may speak with authority from the county that I spent most of the time in, Kakamega County, the gap between the governor and the county assembly is insurmountable. Because the mistake we did as voters from the 12 constituencies, the 60 wards that make Kakamega County, we transformed councillors into county assembly representatives. And when you look at the mandate of the county assembly, among other things, is to scrutinize, pass or reject the budget, to approve plans for the county, to validate appointments of the governor. When you look at their capacity and the amount of responsibility that is in front of them, they are not up to speed.
Yeah.
So our governor is sitting pretty, having been the minister for planning and the architecture of Vision 2030.
Yeah.
No one is challenging him.
No.
And you know, when you are not challenged, anything can happen.
Correct. Correct. So, other than that, I mean, there's nothing to look forward to in 2014 other than the World Cup. Is that it?
We can get our act together as a country, sanitize our county assemblies by the councillors allowing themselves to be capacity built so that they do the things the right way. Even presidents have advisors. So that we get it right, and God willing, towards the end of it, as we celebrate the World Cup, we should have some goodies to celebrate also as a country.
Kenya having turned 50 in December, is there a lot to look forward to? I mean, is there a lot to celebrate our 50th year since independence?
Okay, on a large scale, our 50 years has been peaceful, save for pockets of unrest here and there. But on a natural scorecard, we've performed poorly, because you don't expect at 50 years you are still grappling with issues of malnutrition or floods, you know, not having enough food in the stores. I think we would have done better than that.
Yeah. In the next 50, is there a lot to look forward to?
Definitely. We have to move on, and as a country, failure is not an option.
Yeah. Can these two do it? Can this dynamic duo, as former President Mwai Kibaki called them, the dynamic duo, can they do it?
They have all that it takes to get it right. But, you know, the devil of a human being is a human being. So if they choose to get it right, they have the goodwill of the country, and they have what it takes in Parliament to pass necessary, sensible legislation, not like the bill, the media bill, or the public, the NGO one. So they have the capacity and the goodwill to do right things if they want. Because it boils down to an individual.
But the alternative is scary, isn't it?
Definitely.
I mean, if they go down that slippery slope, which they started towards the end of the year, it's going to be a slippery slope. There'll be a lot of clashes.
Definitely, because where we have reached as a country, the days of we call it, when we were growing up, the Santuri. We passed the age of Santuri, the video cassettes, the DVDs, the CDs. We are past that. Now music has been brought into a different shape and a different stature, they cannot retrogress us. They cannot take us back to where we were. Because I'm very sure the late President Mzee Jomo Kenyatta, if he was to wake up today, he cannot admire to be president of this country even for 1 minute. Because when he was president of this country, when he used to cough, everybody else used to catch cold. But today, if President Uhuru Kenyatta coughs, we tell him either go to hospital or keep distance. We've moved on.
Yeah. Would Mzee be proud of his son so far?
He won't. He won't be proud of his son because he ruled us during the times when presidency was more of imperial and he had a whip. His son cannot even pinch anybody unless he does it through the judicial process. But ruling us or presiding over us the way Nyayo or Mzee Kenyatta did, they are the only presidents who enjoyed total presidency. Yeah. Yes.
42 million Kenyans, or however many we are. Is there a lot to look forward to, especially in 2014?
If we get it right as a country, devolution succeeds, everyone does at least the little bit. You remember Wangari Maathai, the hummingbird, the little that we can. Yeah. If everybody does the little that we can, this is a good country. We are endowed with a lot of resources. Look at the water that is under Turkana, the oil, the human resource in this country. If there is that goodwill, and not the witch hunting, the way things are being done in Parliament. They sanitize our security. They fix the refugee issue because it has to be fixed. Our brothers have to be told the importance of going back to their country, but in a humane manner. I believe there's more light in front of us than where we are coming from.
Yeah, and bringing together the East African community. Will that happen, McLean? Do you think that is feasible?
Yes and no. We have the undertones. You remember the address to the parliament by JK, the president, Kikwete.
Yep.
So if all the cards are put on the table and we talk to each other as people who need each other, not talking to persons, or rather talking to each other as people who are at a vantage point, we can make it as a community of nations and we can make it as East Africa community. But at the pace and the speed at which we are moving, I believe that a lot needs to be done if we are to make it.
Yeah. Bottom line, are you optimistic?
Definitely. The only person who cannot be optimistic is the person who is 6 feet.
But you know, sometimes you have to think like a realist. You know, not like a pessimist or an optimist, but a realist.
In as far as you have to do 90 or 80% of driving while looking at the windscreen, we must also keep peeping at the side mirror, just in case something is trailing us. So in as much as we are optimistic, we also leave room for anything can happen because we are human beings.
Yeah.
And as I've told you, the devil of a human being is a human being. You know, when God was creating angels, he gave them desire he gave them intellect without desire. When God was creating animals, he gave them desire without intellect. But when he created men, human beings, he gave us both intellect and desire. Whoever perfects those two becomes greater than angels. And whoever performs below average is rated worse as animals.
So the question is, which one are you?
Your guess is as good as mine.
But also a realist, McLean, would look at the oncoming, a light at the end of the tunnel and hope that it's not an oncoming train.
What I believe is that you should never lose hope, no matter what. Even if you are hanging on a thread, and below it is a pool like the one that surrounds the homestead of the late Ufwet Bwanyi, the Crocs.
Correct.
You must still remain hopeful that something will happen which will see you survive.
Otherwise, you will be lunch for the Crocs. McLean Khatete.
Thank you, my brother.
Happy New Year, my brother.
Happy New Year to you.
All the best in 2014.
You too.
Nice one.
Thank you.
Oh my. McLean Khatete breaking it down. Intellect and desire. Which one are you? This has been the first Chef Kanange of 2014. There will be many more. And yes, no doubt, we will be taking a report card check of this government each and every time we can. Because at the end of the day, if we don't do something, who will? If not us, then who? If not now, then when? Keep watching, folks. You cannot get guests like McLean Khatete anywhere else. Hope you've jotted down on a piece of paper what he says, because what he does say is no doubt profound. The next Jeff Kananga Live, don't forget, Thursday, 7:45 p.m. right here on Kenya's television network, KTN. In the meantime, the news continues. Thanks for watching. Good night. Good luck and Happy New Year.